What's up, everybody? It's ICanSnake.
Hello, everybody. Downloads Bacon here. These guys found me again, so what can you do?
We did.
Yeah, you're just hiding in a little cardboard box in the corner.
As soon as you guys found me, a little exclamation point came out.
Greetings, everyone. This is Trainor-Ling.
What's going on, guys? It's James the Con Man, and Littlest Pet Shop. Come spend your money here. Ka-ching!
So today we've got another guest. Please introduce yourself.
It is I, Feem, and I'm back, everyone. You thought you could get rid of
And better than ever.
You were wrong!
Yes, welcome back, Feem. Well, everyone, without further ado, let's jump right into the plot. So the plot here is business is slow at Littlest Pet Shop, so Mrs. Twombly agrees to let Blythe and her friends shoot a TV commercial in order to attract some customers. But when Jasper takes on the job as the commercial's director, perfection quickly goes to his head. My first positive is, surprisingly, it's Jasper.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
that's right. People may hate Jasper in this episode, but I actually love him in this.
Gasp.
Yes, many gasps. I think it's because we all have a little bit of him in our personalities. We all want things to go our way, and when it comes to certain things that we are good at, we don't want to listen to what anyone else has to say. We want it the way we want it, or else it's, forget about it.
Agreed. Like,
Totally.
you guys have been noticing the new intro. That took a lot of time for me to get right. So
I would bet.
just like Jasper. Episode. So I can sympathize with him there. So, and normally in most cases I despise the little guy, but this case, we kind of see eye to eye here.
Well, I have to say, I quite like Jasper in this. After doing a lot of college projects with said teammates, I know how frustrating it can be working with other people, especially if you're like the leader of a project and then you ask them to do stuff, they just keep going wrong, and it's just like, no. Also, I could actually really relate to him here. Also, have you guys seen the episode with Arthur in it? The Crunch cereal contest. That's what.
Oh, yes, I remember that. So, where he's trying to write a jingle for a cereal and get a lifetime supply of it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was going to make that example too about how Arthur
Yeah.
was a perfectionist and even like drove everyone out because they weren't seeing his vision. So this.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that saw that.
Oh no, you're talking to a big Arthur fan, so of course I'm gonna get it.
Yes.
And this is also, as far as I'm aware, Jasper's like first major role in an episode. He doesn't really get much major roles since, well, before this episode at least. I thought he had a lot of good development in this episode.
He had a lot of development.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong there. He had a ton of development.
Season 2 is the season of Jasper. Actually, in Season 2, Jasper gets 3 episodes more or less started and moving, and they're my 3 favorite of the season, so that's interesting.
I thought the voices he gave the pets was really funny. How he made, like, oh my god, what's it, Pepper. The Pepper's old man voice was, oh my god, I died. And she died at that.
Forgot about that part, Gene.
Come to Littlest Pet Shop. We have the best daycare stuff. Something like that, right, guys?
I think his voice on Sunil sounded way closer to Kevin from Ed and Eddie than the regular Jasper voice ever did.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was so funny.
Kind of reminds me of a really cheesy local commercial that has a talking dog, but it's for a law firm rather than a pet shop. So I guess it's kind of what they're trying to channel, like the whole cheesy local commercial vibe. So you guys know what I'm talking about with like cheesy local ads, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could I add a positive again?
Sure.
Add on.
This
Oh my
time,
God.
for the one
Got cut?
and only Mrs. Twombly.
Oh, yes. This is Anna T. Thank you.
If you please.
Yeah.
Oh wait, wrong episode.
She was awesome sauce. She was so adorable.
She always
and really
is.
funny. And I
And
loved her
what is
enthusiasm.
it?
Come on, guys. When is Mrs. T not awesome sauce? She's always awesome sauce.
Yeah, I really think Kathleen Barr had all of her work cut out for her in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. Her deliveries were amazing. Especially when Mrs. T was crying. She sounded like she was legitimately crying.
Oh man, that scene got me so bad.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, I felt so bad for her because I'm sure that everyone has gone through that experience where, you're promised something or at the very least you're going to get something out of something, but then just to not get it and then you're all upset. I totally feel what she was going through.
Me too.
I completely agree. Like, I'm pretty sure all of us have had that experience where, we basically are promised something or entitled to something only for it to not to happen. Your hope get all the way up, but then instantly get smashed down.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I found it interesting that she was more worried about Jasper than herself. Like, she was worried about how Jasper was acting to everyone.
I guess it goes to show that she wasn't entirely selfish about the commercial, and I honestly don't think she was.
Me neither.
Samesies.
She's not a very selfish person anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say that Jasper was sort of being selfish because he wanted things to be his way, but at least he owned up to what he did, and he was still able to get Twombly into the final commercial.
Very, very true.
So I believe that's it on the Twombly.
Feem, you have like Young Me, Sue, and Blythe.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about that.
Young Me, Sue, and Blythe. I just thought they were good additions to the episode. Well, even though Young Me and Sue didn't really do all that much, I just thought it was nice that they were there too. And that they were willing to help their friend. It was like, friendship is magic, yay!
Long show.
Oh, we just keep crossing shows over.
Well, they are owned by the same company.
What's your point?
I also liked how Blythe went to see Mrs. T when she was crying. That was such a sweet moment.
Yeah,
It gave
she was
me
in
so
the
many
fire
feels.
hydrant, and all the pets go into the fire hydrant when they're sad.
Even Blythe went in there.
Yeah.
I'm
The fire hydrant.
I'm always surprised that humans can actually fit inside that fire hydrant. It just makes me question if that thing actually expands whenever a human gets inside it. Well, I guess the only other characters we can talk about here are, well, the pets.
Yeah!
Oh yeah, the stars of the show.
Yep, stars of the show and the commercials.
I have a lot to say about the pets.
Go ahead.
Just like,
Right, go right to it. The floor's yours.
I liked all the commercials, of course. I mean, the whole main part they were in was the commercials, because I noticed they weren't actually in it that much. Other than really the main part was they really talked a lot was the commercial side. And I quite liked Minka's commercial, especially with Vinny. I thought that was hilarious when she was like, "You talking like this sounds, how should I put it, lame."
I know.
So, yep, that's
yeah.
about right.
And I liked Russell's commercial as well, because it reminded me of like a furniture store advert, and how they're all over the top, and also when he was like, "That's so cool." I
Yeah.
found that
Yeah.
hilarious.
I think what I really liked about that commercial is that it just started off really basic, and then, it got, better and more enticing as it went on, and then just to cap it off with Come to Littlest Pet Shop was say.
Oh, totally.
I love that song, Come to the Littlest Pet Shop. Even though it's not really like a full-fledged, fleshed-out song, it's still really good and catchy, and I think it was the best idea out of the Pets' ideas for commercials. The first time I watched the episode, the end of the song really reminded me of Family Guy theme song.
Yes.
And I noticed a lot of people were saying that and pointing it out too.
I was gonna say, I remember whenever the first episode first aired, like everyone was comparing it to Family Guy. And say like, "Oh, this reminds me of the theme song of Family Guy." Even the style of song, kind of like show tune, kind of jazz shuffle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
And honestly, it kind of made me think of like a more fleshed out version of. I made the reference at the way beginning of this review, but episode of SpongeBob where he wanted to do a commercial for the Krusty Krab, like what Squidward originally wanted to do, because you could see like a few can dancers walking off
close
set
the
whenever
door?
Krabs sees how much money they're spending on the commercial. But the ending, the actual commercial kind of had this sort of vibe too. So come spend your money here.
I think it's also worth noting that all those pets are wearing those head gear things, whatever those things are called, similar to the ones that Vinny and Penny Ling were wearing during their little fantasy in Eve of Destruction. Anyone else notice that?
Oh,
yeah.
you mean like the biggest showgirl kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things were sweet.
I believe it's called a headdress. I might be incorrect. Also, if I may have the floor, I don't know if anyone noticed the Matrix-like reference that they had in the beginning when Pepper pressed the button on the remote and all the shelves came forward and it was with her and Minka. I don't know if anyone caught that.
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah.
anyone...
Oh, yeah. I didn't even pick up on that until just now.
You disappoint me, neighbor. And of course, the ultimate question. If you choose the red pill, then LPS will be successful. And if you choose the blue pill, Ekans will be an LPS character.
Yes.
Please watch.
I'd love that. But another thing I would love to add is all of the fourth wall breaks. First, they start out by explaining what a commercial on a television is, and then Sunil talks about having his own animated series about what they do at Littlest Pet Shop, and then Minka segues into a commercial break by saying, "We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors."
I love that.
And need I remind everyone of Mrs. Twombly's little singing of the Littlest Pet Shop theme song? It's like, wait a minute, we have a theme song? Oh, I just love that scene to death.
Yeah.
I friggin' love that song so much.
It's only Mrs. Twombly who would think that her own shop has a theme song, and all the while Blythe is like, what? Oh, Mrs. Twombly, you never fail to amaze anyone. I guess the only positives that we have left would be Jasper's commercials.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, those were awesome.
Yeah, again, I gotta give major credit to Kathleen Barr for her many voices. Well, I guess I can't say her voice, but Jasper's voices of all the pets. How do you describe them? They're just, I guess they're there, but they don't really match. But maybe, Suspicious Sunil's voice, close enough.
They're all hilarious in their own way.
Oh, absolutely. Minka's, close enough to the original.
Not really.
Old Man Pepper? Close enough.
And then in the final commercial, he got them all perfectly right, but then he just switched them around.
Yeah, I thought, that was pretty funny. Just was kind of hoping for them to all be, correct, but hey, Jasper's just gonna be Jasper. He'll just choose whichever voices he wants. And I just think it's really amazing how he was able to get these voices sounding almost entirely perfect. I mean, I don't know what kind of equipment this kid has, but obviously it must be pretty expensive to get voices like that.
Oh, yeah.
Either that or he has some really good talent connections. Either way, I love it.
Love it, love it, love it.
Hey, don't be taking my words.
So I guess we can move on to the negatives now?
Oh, yes, Ekans, please indulge us on your one and only negative.
What is this? Ekans has a negative?
My negative. I'm the only one that has negatives here.
Clearly.
So I guess my only negative is when Blythe is explaining to Jasper what he did wrong. Namely, like, how she knows how the pets' voices are wrong. She doesn't give a real legitimate reason and explanation to Jasper. She just says she just knows the pets are wrong voices. She's berating Jasper for his poor directing and acting like a jerk, yet she doesn't give a real reason as to why that is. It makes it feel like it's just being skipped over and that Jasper has to pay no mind to what she just said.
Well, I guess I can see where you're going with this, but we have to remember that Jasper was more about just making the commercial. I don't think he was really, worrying so much about how the pets sounded. He just wanted the pets to just, I guess, talk just to help promote the shop in just his vision. And again, he's just thinking like a regular director. So it doesn't matter which voices he's putting in there. The fact is he just wants them to talk the way he thinks the pets are talking, at least, according to the sounds that they're making. So it doesn't really matter what Blythe is saying. It's all about Jasper in that current moment.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so I don't have anything really bad to say about Blythe. I mean, one could say it sounds bad, but, Blythe just doesn't want to start talking about this secret because at that time, she doesn't know exactly how Jasper would react if it was revealed that she can talk to these pets and she knows exactly how they sound. So I'm not really going to fault Blythe on anything here.
Yeah, in the words of Bigfoot, this isn't about me, it's about you, which is something that Blythe could have said.
So I guess we could go on to overall scores now.
Absolutely.
I really do like this episode. One problem a lot of people hate about this episode is how Jasper is the star of this episode. A lot of people hate him because how he acted, but you have to realize that unfortunately a lot of people in the filming industry, this is how most people act when they're on the set. You have a lot of people to talk to, many things to remember in such a short amount of time to get things done. And you also have deadlines. If the first take is not perfect, of course the producers are going to be mad because it all costs money. This is like paid per minute. So this also ties into the idea of money, fame, and fortune and how the ideals can get into your head and change your personality. So with that said, this wasn't too bad of an episode. I really like it. So I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10.
A very, very wise choice of words from a very wise Ekans.
Ekans 2015.
My reviews just don't feel the same without music. Oh, there we go. Nice little rock beat here. What else can I say about this episode that everyone else hasn't said? You know, it comes to a surprise to no one. I love this episode. I love it more than most of the other episodes. Season 2 had the best episode opinion. But you see, something that I don't get is that this episode inspired everyone to really hate Jasper more, even though Jasper learned his lesson. And the people who do hate him have probably never directed anything before. My brother can tell you that when it comes to directing, it is really hard. It is actually a pain to get because it's very simple. On paper, and to be a director, like, it's simple. You just tell them to do this, but to get it right is more frustrating than usual. If they couldn't even get the establishing shot. The establishing shot is just getting the first 5 seconds. All you gotta do is just get your location. That is it. You just have film for it. It was tough for them to get that one shot, so you know this day is gonna be frustrating. And I can really understand the amount of pressure that he's putting himself through, is that, one, this is like a big project for him. Second, this is gonna be televised. On TV. I know, right? It's televised debut is going to be on the radio. And on the internet. You know someone's going to put that on the internet if it's really, really bad. And it's going to get a lot of hate. It's going to be made fun of a lot. And whose name's going to be on there? Directed by Jasper. And you know how everyone treats a director if they do a bad job. Just look at Joel Schumacher. Third, if he actually gets the amount of credibility, like if this actually comes out really good, he might actually get some fame or recognition. And of course, everyone wants that. Fourth, Blythe actually put in a good word about Jasper. He doesn't want to let her down. So that's another thing that people got to factor in also. And fifth, I don't think Jasper's really getting paid for this, so the reason we all talk about Jasper is that this is the episode where everyone points and goes, see, this is where Jasper was a jerk. He made Mrs. Twombly cry, and he was like a jerk. Can't really say any other words or it would be very inappropriate. And again, man, making Twombly cry, that ain't cool. Then again, I really like Jasper's commercials. Even the first draft was pretty funny, actually. Of course, I do love Old Man Pepper. I don't think Pepper sounded like that or like this. And then we got Sunil being, you gotta try somewhere new. Something. It was weird, but I really wanted Zoe to say, I will bomb you up. Something like that. I know my accent there didn't work too well, but you know what I mean. Probably one of the funniest things in the episode. Kind of reminds me of palm reading, where Mrs. Twombly was trying to imagine how the pets sounded. She was incredible. Speaking of Mrs. Twombly was awesome in this episode. Or awesome sauce, mind you. So she was incredibly awesome in this episode, as I stated 3 times already. And of course, I really love the intro scene with Mrs. Twombly and Blythe kind of doing a little King of the Hill, slightly Big Mac kind of thing, where they're just saying, yep, yep. So I thought that's neat. You know, me being from Texas, I kind of love King of the Hill. And then we had a little play on words. Little is Pat Shop, little is Pit Shop, little is Hut Shop, and little is Hot Shop. Blythe was the voice of reason and helped Jasper out with what he was doing wrong, kind of by telling him, which again might have bummed someone out. But then again, what I stated earlier, why she didn't talk about the whole ability to speak to pets is, then again, this is about Jasper, not about Blythe. Just like I stated earlier with the whole Bigfoot thing. Hey, this isn't about me, this is about you. And really, it's way too early to be telling anyone about her special secret talents of speaking to pets. So, I mean, if she's not going to tell her dad or Mrs. Twombly, she sure as heck ain't going to tell Jasper. Just saying. You know, I really like Sue and Young Me, so can't really say much about them, but they were great. Well, I've been talking all about the humans, but I haven't really been talking about the pets now, have I? Well, one thing I can say that you guys haven't brought up is that I really like the pets' reactions to the commercials. I thought that was actually one of the best things of the episode. Besides their own commercial ideas, I really did like how they were there viewing and commenting on Jasper's draft and final commercial. So I thought it was really cute and really funny, especially with, I believe it was Pepper and Penny-Ling or Zoe that were there joking around about their voices. Actually, I really like Sunil's reaction to his voice in the first draft commercial. You know, just to save it short and sweet, I love all the reactions from the pets. And of course, the best pet moment, in my opinion, is Minka and Vinny's little commercial that they had, where Vinny is doing the rap and yo and what's up and all that, and Minka just comes out and, well, Feem says it better than I'm gonna say it, but to save everyone the ear pain, I just won't do it. And one last thing that I'm very surprised no one brought up was Penny-Ling saying that she was too cute for TV. Can you play the little clip for me? So I guess to wrap this up, I would probably give this episode an 11 out of 10. Why? Because it's one of the top 4, and I go up to 11. This is like one of the Chuck Norrises of this series.
His rating system goes up to 11.
Yeah.
You know?
How dare him.
Hey man, I go up to 11.
Now, I'm not going to lie. When I first saw this episode when it first aired in January 2014, and for many weeks afterwards, I really didn't think too much on it because of Jasper and his really rude behavior. I thought we were given a story where this kid finally showed his true colors underneath all that niceness we've seen before, and yes, he did turn out to be a jerk when it came to media production. But during the last year since the beginning of Season 3, I've actually come to greatly praise the episode and label Jasper not as a negative, but as a positive this time around. Even though his attitudes and fame-driven actions are not always liked by some, I actually understand why he acted like he did. He's like any other director who wants to make things as perfect as possible, and he's not afraid to break some hearts, like what he did with Mrs. Twombly. I guess you could say when it comes to digital media production, Jasper would prefer his vision over others, and I don't blame him. But for being only a teenager, he has some pretty sweet production skills, so I'll give him that. In the end, he was willing to accept his faults and make things right with his friends, and of course, make a new last-minute commercial. On the subject of commercials, I loved every single one of them. Jasper's first attempt was so bad that it was actually funny with his many pet voiceovers. So, Kathleen Barr, thank you for the laughs. His second commercial, the one that made it to the air, was really good. I'm really surprised he was able to figure out how the pet sounded even though he got the voices mixed up. He must either have some very good equipment or he has some pretty good talent connections. Either way, it was awesome. Of course we can't forget how the pets envisioned the commercial in their little fantasy. It started off very basic and it slowly became more spectacular as it went on. The song that capped the whole thing off, Come to the Littlest Pet Shop, was the perfect way to end the fantasy. I love how they all look like Vinny and Penny Ling from their little fantasy in Eve of Destruction. It's a nice little throwback, if I can even call it a throwback. And finally we come to Mrs. Twombly. With her many spitballed ideas and fourth wall joke about the show's theme song lyrics, similar to how Sunil referred to the idea of a cartoon series centered around them, I'm sure everyone can sympathize with Anne in this episode. We've all had those moments where we've been promised something or at the very least hoping we're going to get something out of something bigger, only to not get it. I mean, I was shocked to learn Jasper had cut Anna from the first commercial, even though I don't technically blame him, but yeah, it did come off as rather selfish. I mean, cutting the shop owner out of a commercial about her own shop. Again, that's very selfish, but in the words of Jasper at the time, that's show business. I think you'd have to be almost made of stone to not feel crushed by that. Jasper could have simply had Twombly refilm her scenes, which is clearly what happened in the second commercial, because you can tell how different Anna's first on-screen appearance was as compared to the footage made the second time around. Regardless, everyone was able to watch the second and final draft of that commercial and leave feeling satisfied with some added business to boot. With all of this tied tightly under our chins, I can say this episode is practically perfect in its own right. It's really hard to nitpick any negatives I originally had a long time ago. I used to consider Jasper a negative, but like I said, he's not anymore. This episode deserves a solid 10 out of 10, and that's exactly what I'm giving it now.
Alrighty then. Where to start? Well, first of all, a little bit of background on myself. I too did a little bit of video production in high school. Actually, a lot of it, all 4 years of my high school. And I still do it on the side today. I mean, if you look back at the pre-intro to intro, you know, that's kind of a little bit of what I do. But I've always worked alone. You know, I've been more of a person who likes to work by himself to avoid conflicts like what happened in this episode. Although there would be times where I'd have to have other actors. So, you know, I have been in a couple of situations like this where, you know, my vision is different than what the actors are doing, blah, 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 blah. But I never really went to the length that Jasper did. That being said, I do like this episode, if only because I can relate to it to a degree. You know, Jasper I used to think was a bit of a jerk, you know, back when I first saw this about a year or two ago. And upon a second and third appraisal, you know, recently, my opinion's kind of changed. You know, he just has his creative vision and everyone else wasn't exactly in line with it. And yeah, really the only sore spot is what Ekans mentioned about you know, Blythe's kind of for lack of a better word, BS excuse about the pet voices. But other than that, this is a solid episode, really solid episode. I gotta give it. I can't give it anything lower than a 9.5 out of 10. I just can't.
My overall thoughts. I have to say, I have a lot to say about this episode. After a rewatch, I think I could safely say it's joint first with my favourite episode, What's So Scary About That Jungle? My favourite episode again. This episode shows good development. I really, 1,000 times really love Mrs. T. And I thought she was just adorable. And this is one of her more major roles in the episode, just like Jasper. Again, they didn't really get much roles in episodes. This is probably more of their main focus on them. Yes. And I like the character development for Jasper. And as I said prior to this, I found him to be very relatable. The pets were great, and I loved their advert fantasies. The comedy in this episode was amazing. From the pets, Jasper, Blythe, and Mrs. T, the pets' voices that Jasper chose, of course. I have no really got any negatives for this episode, as I found it really funny, and it just had good morals to it about how you shouldn't sort of get that annoyed with your friends, and that they should understand where you're coming from, sort of thing. Yeah. And of course, I loved this episode, and I thought it was, in the words of Mrs. T, awesome sauce. And overall, I give it a 10 out of 10.
Perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. Brilliant.
I guess you can say this episode is very nice. Nice.
Noise.
That is a
Nice.
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 Oh yeah, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I thought it was nice too.
Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it.
So next week we're going to be doing season 1. So let's see what the randomizer gives us.
Bring on the randomizer.
All right.
And the winning episode is Topped with Buttercream.
Yay! What a tasty treat for next week.
Yay!
Oh yes, this is gonna be a sweet episode. Oh, I love it so much.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
It will be a sweet episode.
Yo, James, bro to bro, you need to work on your jokes.
Don't worry. We have at least a week, so.
And this is ICanSnake.
This is Downloads Bacon, gotta go fast for my reviews. Hope you can keep up.
CC Trainor-Ling.
James the Con Man.
And our guest.
Feem!
And this is the League of Pet Shoppers signing out. We'll see you next time.
Peace out, home slices.
Remember, Littlest Pet Shop, come spend your money here. Ka-ching!
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review and everything. And you guys are so amazing. And it is, how should I say, au revoir to you.
Of course, we'll be seeing you in the next episode, so thanks, and thanks again.
What's up, everybody? This is Senilnish98 here. My final thoughts for a very good episode. From when I first watched it, I didn't like it very much. It was one of my least favorite episodes. And then the more that I watched it, the better it got, because I realized that Jasper, yes, while he is a jerk throughout the episode, but just something that I didn't like, he does learn his mistakes throughout the rest of the episode, and then he tries to redeem himself. So Jasper was great, Blythe was great, Mrs. Twombly's always great. I don't know, Cav will like to hear that. The other thing is that the references were awesome. That's all I can really say about this episode. I don't want to go too far without gushing about it, so I'm going to be giving this episode a 9.5 out of 10. Alright guys, so this is Sunil Nash 98, and adios.